But there's something at the back of my head that's saying, Snorv, don't get your hopes up just yet, just because, I basically was looking at the Wii U as my third party machine going into the Wii U in 2012, which, looking back, was completely stupid. But when you saw people like Warner Brothers and EA and Activision on stage at E3, I thought, great, we're going to get third party support this time. This time around, I'm just looking for first party titles like another Splatoon game, another Mario Kart game, as well as 3D Mario, a Zelda game. Definitely want to get into the Zelda franchise. So that is how I'm looking at the NX this time around. I'm not really banking on third party support. A lot of people are thinking that the NX will just be a perfect system. It will have every single first party game. Obviously it will do, just because Nintendo will develop games for it, but it will also have all of the third party games as well. I don't necessarily see it that way at this moment in time. Obviously we don't know what the NX is, but I think what you will need to do is buy another system for third party games again, like what it's always has been. That's what it's always has been. It always has been, I can't flip and speak, but it's always has been that way, where you have to buy two systems to get your third party support if you are a Nintendo fan. So yeah, that's just pretty much how I feel about third party support. I'm not getting carried away at this point in time. I'm just waiting for official information, and I'm just waiting for these third party companies to prove me wrong. But I've been burned too many times by these third party companies. I just think they will come out with another excuse. If the architecture for the NX is good for them to port games over to the NX, and I think they will come up with another excuse, because that's what they always have done. If it's not the architecture's fault, then they'll probably come out with, oh, there's not enough people, the install base isn't there, or Nintendo, they're releasing their games so nobody's going to buy our games. That's what they'll probably come out with. I don't think the NX will be that perfect gaming box that people hope and expect it to be. Obviously it would be absolutely amazing if you didn't have to pick up another system to get that third party support, or to get every single third party game released, but that's never happened in the past. We've never had the perfect gaming machine before, so why will it happen with the NX? Why will it happen this time around? I don't think it will, and I don't think it is a realistic expectation to have. I think you're only setting yourself up for disappointment if you are expecting the NX to be that perfect gaming machine where you won't have to pick up a PS4 Neo, Xbox Scorpio, PS5, Xbox 2, where you won't have to pick up another system to go alongside your NX to get that third party support. I don't think it will happen, and it will be interesting to go back to this video and see whether I will be right, like in a year's time when we do know the amount of third party games coming out for the system. It will be interesting to go back to this video and see whether I will be right, whether the NX will be that perfect gaming machine, or whether it will get some third party games but it will miss out on some as well. It won't get every single third party game out there. And my main fear is that these third party companies will see that smartphone games are booming. They're seeing that the 3DS and Nintendo's handheld part of their business is doing a lot better than their console side of the business. And obviously maybe the NX, it does have a console experience, but my main fear is that these third party companies will just focus on making mobile like games, making handheld like games for the bit on the go, just because that is where a lot of gamers are at nowadays. That is just my main fear, is that we will see less console like experiences because of the fact that smartphone games are doing well at this moment in time. And so what you just heard right there were my expectations for third party support when the Switch was just known as the NX. I think it's safe to say that my expectations and my predictions, they were quite low. I was never expecting a lot of third party games to come out for the Switch. That was up until the Switch got revealed in October, and then Nintendo revealed the list of third party developers making games for the system, and then they came out with, oh, we've got 100 games from third-party developers, something along those lines. They did come out with, and then my expectations sort of went up a little bit. I made a video talking about my third-party predictions, going through that list of third-party games. So for Bandai Namco, I said, oh, I think we're going to be getting Tekken 7. And for Square Enix, they said, oh, we probably might be getting Final Fantasy 15. Activision, I said maybe we'll get Destiny, the collection, I think it's called the Ice, I can't remember what it's called, but the last Destiny collection, in time for Destiny 2 to come out for the Switch. I said maybe we probably might be getting Modern Warfare Remastered. So my expectations were always low up until that list came out from Nintendo, and then I would say after that whole January presentation, I probably would say that my expectations went down a little bit. A lot of people after that January presentation and after when the Switch launched in March, they said, oh, let's wait until E3, we probably will get more announcements. Well, E3 has been and gone, and there is a lot of reaction in the community, so that is why I am making this video talking about third-party support on the Switch. I will be asking the question, is it dead? But before I get into that, just want to wrap up that intro, just because I do believe, I can remember saying something about my fears for the Switch being, it being a hybrid system. My fear is that third parties will treat it more like a handheld than a console. I can remember saying something like that in the video. I'm just not sure whether I can track that down or not. Hopefully I did. If you did, obviously you've already heard it. But that falls into what EA have been saying about the Switch. They are treating the Switch as a handheld. I did record a video talking about EA's comments, but I'm not sure whether I will upload it actually. But basically, when talking about future support for the Switch, they were referring to it more like a handheld. They were saying that because the Switch is out on the go, it's not more of a technical aspect with the Switch, it's more of a different player base. And when developing games for being played on the go, it is completely different than developing games for being played at home with sticks in your living room. It's got different mechanics, different menus, different interfaces, different gameplay. That's what they were talking about. And basically in that video I said, the Switch is both. Why not develop a game that can be used for both, pretty much? Why just develop a game that is best used for one of the Switch's many different play styles? But that's not what I want to get into just yet. I probably will talk about that later on in the video. Like I said at the start, I was never expecting many third-party games for the Switch. It's like I heard a lot of E3 predictions, and I heard some people say, oh, we're going to get a lot of third-party announcements at E3 2017. I didn't really agree with those predictions, just because I never really expected that many third-party games to be announced, especially after watching that January presentation, how we didn't get some of the games that I predicted. It sort of changed my mentality towards what third-party games I expected for us to get. I just didn't really expect that many third-party games to be announced, especially after what we experienced on the Wii U as well, and that sort of played its part as well. So I had low expectations that I wouldn't get disappointed if we didn't get that many announcements. And if you look at what got announced at E3, all we got in terms of third-party announcements was Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which we already knew about before. Starlink Battle, or Starlink Battle for Atlas, I do believe it's what it's called, from Ubisoft. And the last third-party announcement was Rocket League, which has been talked about for a while now. They have been teasing Rocket League for the Switch for quite a while, so it's not really a big surprise for me. For people that don't really follow Nintendo gaming news, and I'm sure it is a surprise. I'm sure not many people expected that, but all what we got were 3 announcements pretty much, and 2 of them we knew before. Going into E3, I wanted to see a For Honor port from Ubisoft. I really did, just because that game is perfect for motion controls. I would have made a separate video talking about that. And I wanted to see a flipping first-person shooter getting announced for the Switch with motion control. But yeah, I just want to talk about third-party support. This video is going to be all over the place. I have made notes. For what I want to talk about. So if I feel like I have exhausted, what I'm talking about from the top of my head, then I will go back to my notes just in case I have missed out on anything. But yeah, like I said, a lot of people, they expected a lot of third-party announcements at E3, and because we didn't, a lot of people are now, starting to freak out, and are probably now starting to feel like what I've always felt like, and that is, I don't feel like the Switch will ever be that perfect third-party system. I don't feel like it will get every single third-party game. That's what I've always, talked about. That's what, I've always felt. Maybe not from October till January. I sort of fell into the trap of believing that maybe the Switch will get a lot of third-party support. But I think after what we experienced with the Wii U, I just don't feel like we will see that many third-party games come out for the Switch. I think we will see the odd few games here and there, and we'll talk about that going forward. What will happen with third-party support. It's like at the moment we have 40 Nintendo Switch games announced from third-party developers. I want to make a separate video going through that list. I'm not sure whether we'll have time. But yeah, the Switch, it does have third-party games, and it does have games from companies like Square Enix, Activision, Ubisoft, Capcom, companies like that. But the games that those companies are bringing over, it's not their main game. It's not one of their main games. I would say that EA, they're probably one of the best developers in terms of bringing over their main game. It's like FIFA 18. Probably their biggest game coming out in 2018 or in 2017, I should say. Apart from, I would say, Star Wars Battlefront 2. I definitely would say that FIFA is probably their biggest IP. But if you look at Ubisoft, they're bringing over Monopoly. They're bringing over Rayman Legends, which is a game from 2013. They're bringing over Steep. Get rid of those two flipping ports and flipping ports For Honor. Seriously, For Honor is perfect with the Switch. It really, really is in terms of motion control. I've played the game on the PS4, played the beta, had a lot of fun with the beta, but I just felt that the game was better. It would have been better with motion control. And the fact that the Switch with the Joy-Cons, it's got motion control, and the fact that the For Honor devs, they were the same people that made Red Steel, I do believe. It's just, that game would have just been perfect for the Switch, but instead we got flipping Steep, which Ubisoft have gone quiet about. We're getting Rayman Legends as well. That's just not good enough. Those two games are not good enough. But Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, that looks really fun. You've got Starlink Battle for Atlas, which looks fun for what it is. I'm not sure whether we'll want to pick it up just because it does look microtransaction heavy. It is one of those toys for life games. I know you can buy the parts. You don't have to buy the toys to get all of the parts in the game, but to get all of the parts in the game, you have to buy all of the DLC. So it will be microtransaction heavy. Not sure whether we'll want to support that. And in terms of Square Enix, they're not bringing over games like Final Fantasy 15. Obviously, from what we know at this time of recording, what they are bringing over is just Project Octopath Traveler, which I do believe is a sequel to Bravely Default, I do believe, or Bravely Second. I think it might be a game set in that same sort of genre, in that same sort of universe. They're not bringing their main games. Activision, all they're bringing over at this moment in time is Skylanders Imaginators. We don't know whether Call of Duty will be coming out for the system. It seems like Destiny 2 will not be coming out for the Switch. They're not bringing their main games over to the system. Capcom, they've brought over Ultra Street Fighter 2, which is a port of a really old game. They charged way too much for that game. Capcom, what else they're bringing over? Monster Hunter Double Cross. That is just Japanese exclusive at this moment in time, but I'm sure it will get localized. There are rumours that they are making a brand new Monster Hunter game as well, and those rumours are coming from the same guy who said that Monster Hunter World will be, existing pretty much. And that person got Monster Hunter World spot on. I think Monster Hunter World should have come out for the Switch. I made a separate video talking about that. I really do feel like that game should have come out for the system. I'm trying to think what other, you got Konami. They brought over Super Bomberman R, but they're not bringing over PES. So, third party support, yes, we're getting these games from these main developers, but it's definitely half and half. It's not full on support like what they are doing with their other consoles, like what they're doing with PS4, Xbox One. They never dance around the bush with those two systems. They always flipping bring out their main games for those two systems, but with Nintendo systems, they always go half-hearted. They always just go half in, not fully in. They don't bring over their main games, and that's just my main problem with the third-party support on the Switch at this moment in time. Will we see more announcements? Maybe we will get a couple more at the most in another Direct later on this year, like what we got with Payday 2. That was a complete surprise. But in terms of the third-party support, it's like games like Rocket League. I would have picked up if I didn't have a PS4. It's like I've played Rocket League with my mates. I will be uploading a series. I'm going to call it Road to Rocket League Switch, and basically it's me playing Rocket League PS4 with my mates, just showing that if you pick up the game for the Switch, and if you've got a bunch of mates, and the game is fun, but I'm not going to pick the game up just because I've already bought the game, and I want to play the game with my mates. And unfortunately, cross-platform play with the PS4 is not existing due to Sony. So I'm not going to pick up Rocket League, but what I will do is pick up games like Payday 2, which I haven't played before. Maybe I will pick up Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle as well. But a lot of people are disappointed with the lack of third-party announcements at E3, and I just want to move into some of the possible reasons for that. Maybe a lot of the games that are being released right now, a lot of these games probably were in development before the NX was actually a thing. A lot of companies, they got their NX dev kits. Some of them, if they were looking, 2015. A lot of them got them. I do believe Nintendo started giving out dev kits at E3 2016. We know that Activision got their dev kits in July 2016, just because Beenox, which is part of Activision, they got their dev kits at the end of July 2016, which would have been too late for a lot of the games that are being released right now. It would have been too late to port over some of those games over to the system. So maybe that is a massive reason for that, and maybe moving forward we will see more third-party announcements. But if you look at a lot of these third-party announcements, it's devs saying, I like this Switch, but our game's not coming out for it. And they're coming out with some stupid excuses. It's like Destiny 2. I do believe the reason why that game isn't coming out for the Switch is because online, I do believe the dev said, online on the go, it just wouldn't work. Well, if that's the case, just make your game flipping dock exclusive then. That's just how I see it. If you've got a fear of, online on the go, which is complete garbage anyway, because if Nintendo are bringing out online games for the Switch, like ARMS, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, and expecting us, the gamers, to use hotspots or to use our phones as a hotspot as well, then I'm sure that these other companies could do the same. And like I said, they could easily make dock exclusive games, because if it's like I said, companies, it seems like they are treating the Switch as a handheld. That's what I get the impression from EA. Is we haven't heard from a lot of other companies. There were rumours that Activision were bringing over a exclusive Call of Duty game, sort of like what the PS Vita got. So that suggested that, you know, Activision looked at the Switch in the same way as, you know, as a handheld, pretty much. Looked at it in the same way as EA did. So I'm sure, like, you got Voez as well. That's a game just for the handheld. You know, I'm sure you could do a dock exclusive game if you are that bothered about, you know, playing out on the go. And I can't see why they can't do a game just dock exclusive. I know, you know, the Switch's main USP is playing games anywhere at any time. But if you just say, yeah, you know, you can play this game online. You know, it's best if you play this game online at home on your dock. If you want to, you know, you can play this game anywhere, but you will have to find a hotspot, or you will have to use your phone as a personal hotspot. I don't see why you can't do that. I really can't. So yeah, going back to the whole dev kits sort of situation, maybe that is the reason why we're not getting a lot of third-party games this year. Maybe that is why we're not seeing a lot of third-party announcements this year, and maybe moving forward we will see a lot of third-party announcements. Is it a power issue? I don't think it is, just because we saw games like Assassin's Creed on the Wii U. We saw, you know, games like Call of Duty, Dead Space on the Wii. So if these companies were willing to develop for the Wii and Wii U, which were less powerful than their consoles at the time, Wii U was more powerful than the PS3, Xbox 360 until the PS4 and Xbox One came along. I'm sure, especially with the Switch, it is a lot easier to develop for than the Wii and the Wii U. I am sure that they could easily develop their games for the Switch. I don't think it is a power issue. I think they could easily get a version of their game running on the Switch. Yes, it may be heavily downscaled from what the PS4 and Xbox One are getting, but I'm sure you could get a downscaled Call of Duty World War II to run perfectly well on the Switch. I'm sure you could get Frostbite running on the Switch as well, especially if you've got Unreal Engine 4. So I'm sure you could get like a downscaled Star Wars Battlefront 2. I don't think it is a power issue. I don't think it is a hardware issue, just because you've got Nvidia on board, flipping, you know, with the whole custom techniques. I'm sure it is a lot easier to develop for than the Wii U. So I don't think that is an issue at all. And just, you know, the last point on these third-party excuses, I'm sure a lot of people will, you know, because, you know, it is a system that can be played on the go, I'm sure some third-party companies will, moving forward, overplay that feature and say, oh, we can't get this game running when out on the go. Well, just, like I said, make your game dock exclusive then. That's just how I see it. You know, the Switch has got multiple play styles. Take advantage of it, do you know what I mean? You know, you don't just have to do one flipping play style. That's just how I see it. Maybe that is a thing that is being enforced by Nintendo. Maybe you have to get your game on the dock and out on the go. And I'm sure, you know, for a lot of developers who don't want to downgrade their experience for 720p 30 FPS when out on the go, even though that would still be good enough, just because, you know, it's a handheld when out on the go. That is, you know, the most powerful handheld. You know, I still feel like that would be good enough. That would still be a good enough experience. It's like when on that screen, the game would still look good in 720p. That's just how I see it. So that's just the last point that I want to make in terms of third-party excuses. The last point I want to make in this video is, will we see more third-party games moving forward? And this is something which I've, you know, touched upon quite a few times earlier on in this video. After that E3, I'm not really expecting that many more third-party games getting announced. I'm just expecting the odd couple here and there. And in terms of what games we are going to be getting, I think what we will get is games that will be for the handheld sort of gamer. That's just how I see it. I think we will see games like Sims, stuff like that. I'm trying to think what handheld Activision games that they brought out. I can't really think of any from the top of my head. I feel like what we will see is not, you know, not like flipping ports like of the next Call of Duty game, Battlefield, Battlefront, flipping Destiny, GTA, Red Dead, games like that. What we'll get is, Rockstar. We might get GTA Chinatown Wars like 2 or something like that. A game that is, suited to the handheld. But I think third parties will soon jump on board when the Switch, will flipping sell well, and it's already selling well. But when Pokemon comes along, that is when the Switch will flipping blow up. It will explode into something bigger than what we can think of right now. It's going to be a lot bigger. It's going to sell a lot faster than what it is selling right now. So I'm sure when that will happen, because it will happen, because Pokemon, it's a universal flipping brand. A lot of people love it all over the globe. I'm sure a lot of people all around the world will pick up a Switch just solely to play Pokemon. So the Switch will flipping explode at that point. So I'm sure third parties will not want to miss out on that massive install base. So I'm sure they will support the Switch when that does happen. But like what I said earlier, what sort of games will they bring over to the Switch? Will it be like what happened with the Wii, where with EA you had games like EA Fitness and stupid stuff like that? Cooking Mama. That Cooking Mama is not really a third party game. It's published by 505 Games, so sort of third party. I can't really think of, apart from Sims, Ubisoft, you got Just Dance. I'm sure we'll see those sort of experiences. I'm sure we will see experiences that are more suited to the handheld. That's just how I see it, and that's just how I think third parties will look at the Switch. They will see the Switch as more of a handheld system, so they will bring over IPs that are best suited to a handheld system. That's just how I see it. So I don't think we'll ever see a situation where the Switch will get the same sort of games as what the other companies are getting, like Tekken, like their main sort of games like Destiny, Mass Effect, Anthem, games like that. I'm sure they will bring over games that are best suited to the Switch. So, is third party support dead? That is the question that I put in the title. No, it's not at the moment, just because we are getting third party games. It's not dead at the moment, but I don't think we will see parity with the other consoles, and that is what I never expected, especially after the Wii U, and especially because this is a Nintendo console. This Switch was never going to be the perfect system where you were going to get Nintendo's first party exclusives alongside every single third party game under the sun. I'm sure we'll get the odd Call of Duty game, like those sort of announcements here and there, like a main sort of game here and there, but I don't think we will see a lot of those sort of games coming out for the Switch. So that's just how I see it. I don't think the Switch will ever be that perfect system that people want it to be. I'm just, the mentality that I'm having at this moment in time is I'm not really expecting a lot moving forward. The third party announcements that we do get will be a bonus to me. But having said that, when the Switch does sell well, I'm sure a lot of third parties are reacting at this moment in time to what the Switch is currently doing as well. I'm sure the Switch has caught a lot of people off guard. So I'm sure we'll get a lot of third parties starting to be made right now. So I'm sure we'll probably get more third party announcements moving forward. But like what I've said, I don't think it will be games like Anthem, games like I'm trying to think of other main sort of third party games. You know what the point that I'm trying to make. I don't think we'll get those main third party announcements in abundance. I think they will be few and far between. And what these third parties will do is make games that they think will be best on a Nintendo platform, and they will bring over IPs that they think will be best sold by a Nintendo. That will be best sold on a Nintendo platform that the Nintendo audience will pick up. And I think those sort of flipping, you know how, you know, Activision, they just see, yeah, Skylanders, that is just a game that we want to bring over. That is the only game that Nintendo gamers want. And, you know, EA, yeah, handheld gamers, that is what the Switch will be. I think that those sort of flipping, I can't think of the word, but but those sort of impressions, I think is stupid, just because I feel like with a different console, you have a different, you know, type of audience. And like what I've said many times, I feel like these third parties, they should test out the waters with their main games, and if they don't sell, then they bring over games like Skylanders, Just Dance, games that typically sell well on Nintendo platforms. I feel like, because this is a brand new system, I feel like old impressions should go out the window pretty much, and I feel like they should treat this system like what they do with the PS4 and Xbox One, but they don't, unfortunately. That's just my thoughts, and a lot of the community is talking about this, so I thought I would jump on this topic right now. And yeah, I know this video was all over the place, just got a lot of stuff to talk about in terms of this topic. So yeah, it's like, I'm sure, like what I said before, the Switch is definitely a lot easier to develop for than the Wii U. I'm sure that these third parties will bring over games at some point, but like what I said, I don't think it will be their main IPs. That's just how I see it. That's it for this video. I'm pressing that stop button now just because it's time, because my throat is flipping killing me. Let me know your thoughts about the third party situation in the comment section below. Do you think it's dead? I don't think it is. But I don't think it will be like what people want it to be. I don't think we will see the same sort of announcements like what the PS4 and Xbox One get. We will get a different type of third party support on the Switch. And that's just the point that I want to end with. So we'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.